Let's chant Namo Tassa before the start of the session. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right, everyone. So let us continue from where we picked off last time. So to help everyone with the terms, I have compiled this Word document, which I will share with all of you after the session. I will put it on the WhatsApp as well as I will put it on the website so you can download it easily. So this is basically, you could print this out. These are the classifications of the 5 khandas, the aggregates, right? You have, of course, the Pali term here, and then you have the English term here, right? Yes, English, and its corresponding dhammas, right? Its corresponding dhammas. So have a printout of this document, and then I have also put the ayatanas, the 12 ayatanas, the Pali, the English, and then the Dhamma. The 18 Dhatus, the Pali, the English, and the Dhamma for all of you. And then the Satcha, right? I've forgotten to put the English here. I will put that in, and then I will upload it, and its corresponding Dhammas here. And I will explain this to you today, all right? So this will be the key for the chart that we will be going into today. Okay, everyone? All right. So, last time we yes. So last time we went over the explanation of the different chapters that are in the book and where or how the chart on Tika-matika has been compiled, right? And this document will be the key for you to do the segmentation of the Dhammas of the Tika-matika into Khanda, Ayatana, Dhatu, and Satcha. Okay, right. Now, when it comes to the Dhammasangani, we know that the Dhammasangani, that the Tika-matikas in the Dhammasangani, the classification of those Dhammas, look at the 4 ultimate realities, and those ultimate realities are further divided or looked at as khandas, as ayatanas, as dhatus, and satcha. Right. Now, let us look at the khanda first. Let us look at the khanda first. The khandas, or the 5 aggregates, right? Now, these are the 5 aggregates, right? Not the 5 aggregates of clinging. That is important to note. These are the 5 aggregates, right? We are talking about dhammas that are true to both mundane pudgalas and supramundane pudgalas. Hence, we do not classify it as 5 aggregates of clinging, but we look at it as a 5 aggregates which is general to all beings, regardless of whether the being is enlightened or not. Hence, we look at the 5 aggregates. Now, Rupa Khanda, we know, are the 28 rupas. I do not need to explain that, right? The Rupa Khanda are the 28 materials or the Rupa Dhammas. The Vedana Khanda is the Vedana Chetasika. The Sanya Khanda is the Sanya Chetasika. The Sankhara are the rest of the 50 Chetasikas, right? The 50 comes to be minus Vedana and Sanya, because they have been already spoken of in Vedana and Sanya Khanda. And then we have Vijnana Khanda, which is all of the Chitta Dhamma. So the 89 Chittas. Let us only talk about the 89. So I'm not going to just remove the 121. 89 Chittas. Now, as we delve deeper and deeper into Vipassana, right? As we delve deeper and deeper into Vipassana, what we realize is in the Satipatthana, now most of you all, or yes, most of you all, when we, in our discussions of the Satipatthana, we have started with Anapanasati, right? In order to establish focus. And then we have gone into, let us say, whatever technique. For example, let us say Vedana, because we have practiced Vedana a lot. If we would take Vedananupassana, a person who is looking at the Vedana from a fixated point of Atma deduces the Vedana, or after the Spasha takes place. Phassa takes place when or at the meeting point of sense consciousness, sense base, and sense object. Is that right, everyone? Right? Sense object, sense consciousness, and sense base. When sense on consciousness, sense object, and sense base, when the conditions for it arises, Phassa comes to be, right? Phassa comes to be. Now, let us look at Phassa. Let us take it very slow. Let us look at Phassa. Now, when we say contact arises, what do we mean by contact arises? Of course, as we speak, colloquially, as we speak, we say contact arises. But really, contact doesn't specifically arise per se as a different object, but when we look at from the Atma Sanya, we say Phassa arises. But Phassa, Lady Sayadaw explains it as Phassa comes to be at the meeting point, or when there is a sense object, a sense consciousness, and a sense base. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Take it in the sense of, or if we look at it from the sense of cause and effect, the effect is the Phassa that takes place when sense consciousness, sense base, and sense object are all present. Is that clear? Right? Is that clear? So this Chetasika, right, this Phassa which takes place, this contact which takes place as a Chetasika, like all other Chetasikas, are dimensions to this phenomena or to this reality that we see. Right? Now, let me explain that further. Let me explain that further. Now, right now, as we look at the screen, as we are listening, as we are trying to understand all that is being said or everything that is going on in our own minds with regards to the subject at hand, we are having so many conditions that are present which allows this Phassa to take place. I'm saying take place rather than arise, with the different conditions that are present. We know in the Paticcasamuppada, in dependent origination, Vedana and the rest of the series arises based upon this Phassa that takes place. However, This passa that takes place and the Vedana being either pleasurable or not pleasurable, or neither pleasurable nor not pleasurable, that deduction of what is seen through the manifestation of Atma. What if or when we take the Atma away, we come to then deduce what? As the Buddha said, hearing as hearing, seeing as seeing, smelling as smelling, tasting as tasting. There is no second story behind it. That is when the Atma is taken away, right? The Atma is taken away. If the Atma, just for the sake of clarity, when the Atma is present, what do I see? I am seeing the garden, the sun, a nice object, an ugly object, a pleasurable object, a not so pleasurable object. There is a story behind or being deduced upon this Atma, this person or this ego or egocentric way of mind, which deduces the information whether or as it suits or doesn't suit the self. Right? Suits or doesn't suit the self. So in our meditation, when we start with Anapanasati and go on to now seeing the Vedana, seeing the Vedana, beholding the Vedanas that arise moment to moment, as long as the perception of the Vedanas takes place from the purview of Atma, I am seeing. Do you understand? I am seeing. Now, let us put that aside. Any questions up to this point? Okay.
Bhante,
Yes.
when you say I see,
Yeah.
right, then you have Atma, recognition of Atma,
Yeah.
right? So, how do you explain that way? When you say I see, whether you have, you naturally have a basis for self.
Yes. We naturally have, that is the nature of mundane cognition. Right? That is why we find within the Dhammasiri, a breaking up of Sammuti Satcha and Paramatha Satcha. In Vidarshana, what we find is a skewing of mind from understanding between Sammuti and the role of Sammuti and Paramatta and the role of Paramatta. Hence, not to confuse the two. It is as if we've already read these in sutras. One extreme is nihilism, the fact that nothing exists. The other extreme of nothing exists is everything exists. Right? This, the Buddha preaches the fact of the two types of satcha, which we have covered in the first, before the start of the first chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangha, to understand there are two types of satcha, Sammuti and Paramatta. Sammuti has a role that it fulfills and a purpose that it is seen as valid, right? But beyond that validity, it is not true. Paramatta exists and has a validity. It is non-divisible. It doesn't break beyond that level of Paramatta, right? However, if Paramatta is brought into Sammuti in our everyday actions, we will not be able to function. Neither will one, a supramundane individual or an individual who's aiming for a supramundane state, be able to attain that state if Sammuti is brought into Paramatta. These two realities exist in its own scope. So neither can we go on to the extent of saying nothing exists, nor can we go into the state of saying everything exists. So where do we find a sense of balance between these two? That is so well explained within the breakup of Khanda, Skanda, Ayatana, Dhatu, Satcha. Right? Skanda, Ayatana, Dhatu, Satcha. Here, a meditator, as the meditator progresses, we realize the perception of self and how recognizing that existence of self, going into the most subtle forms and states of mind, how can we observe and recognize without the inherent self being a part of that observation, right? In that cause and effect, what we see is even at this moment in time, just as I am speaking, right? Or just as I am your primary object at this moment in time, your whole Mano Dhatu is bent to me, right? Just as if we are to close our eyes and then give way to the powering of the ears to listen as opposed to seeing, we will see that our focus and attention drifts to the ears now, right? Now, at this point in time, because the eyes are so gross, or the eye sensitivity or the eye object, there's so much, it's flooding our minds, we see that the world around us, the scope that we are seeing through the eye base, is so strong that we perceive the sense of self in everything that we see. But when we close our eyes and we listen, now we perceive self in everything that we hear, right? But how do we now come into a position, a place in our meditation, or a place, let us say, let's cut away meditation, a place of being within the present, where the present is seen as the present for what it is, without the attribute of self in it. Without the attribute of self in it. That is where the Buddha says, hearing, seeing as seeing, hearing as hearing. It doesn't go beyond that. It doesn't, when it doesn't go beyond that, it doesn't fuel the Paticcasamuppada, the Avidya, Sankhara, Bhava, Tanha. It doesn't fuel that. That is where now the Sankalpas that arise fall into Nirodha. Where in a state of Nirodha, or the purest state of meditative attainment, which is Nirodha Samapatti, nothing exists in terms of consciousness. Why? There is no mind fueling the process of wanting to be, wanting to see. It is simply in the present. That state of Nirodha. So when we go on to, let us say again, Vedananupassana, observing of the Vedana, observing of the Vedana, we find ourselves in a position where whatever which is, or the Vedana which is of this moment, is all it is at this moment. There's nothing beyond that. When the mind is focused upon that sensation, regardless of whether it is Sukha, Dukkha, or Upekha, or Somnasa, Sukha, Domnasa, Dukkha, Upekha, whatever way that we look at it, it is the only thing that is of this moment is what we focus on, right? Is what we focus on, or where our minds are, or the object that the mind takes, the Araman that the mind takes. So this Arambana, because everything that is created afterwards, Dhamsiri, is because of that passa that takes place. So passa, the contact between this ajata and bahira, happens through the passa. Happens through the passa. Without that contact arising, that contact only arises because of the, again, the eye consciousness, the pasada rupa, and the eye base, right? Now, without that happening, there is no existence. Without that happening, there is no existence. If passa does not happen, then what? The whole cycle of Paticcasamuppada fails. So whatever of the present moment, the being that we see, is dependent upon that passa. Now, it is on that framework that the Dhammasangani, if we are to go through any form of human experience, any form of human experience, that experience of mind is broken up into these Tika-matikas and the Dukkha-matikas, right? And the Dukkha-matikas. And those Tika-matikas and the Dukkha-matikas are elaborated through Khanda, Ayatana, Dhatu, Satcha. If we take Khanda, for example, right? There is Nama and there is Rupa. Nama, Rupa, Rupa Khanda, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vinyana. This dimension or these dimensions of conditions allows the forming of being. In the breaking up of that being, what exists now is skandha, nama and rupa, right? Nama and rupa. Now, when we go on to that skandha, we find that in the Kusala Tika, the 21 chittas and the 38 chetasikas, which we went over last time. Let me. 21 chittas, 38 chetasikas. 21 chittas, 28 chetasikas. As we see this, what do we see? We see there is no rupa khanda. Right? There is only chitta and chetasika. Chitta and chetasika. Of the chitta and chetasika, skandha. So then the kusala tika, according to Khanda, is except the Rupa Khanda, Vedana Khanda is present, Sanya Khanda is present, Sankhara Khanda is present, and Vijnana Khanda is present. Right? And Vijnana Khanda is present. This is Kusala Dhamma. What does this mean? This means that a kusala, for a kusala dhamma to happen, what becomes the forerunner, what becomes the primary mode of its process? The mind. Kusalaya karanna puluwan manasin vitarai. Is that clear, everyone? Right? Although the physical act, now the physical act arises out of Chetana. Chetana is Mano Dhatu, right? Chetana is Mano. However, what produces the Kusala? What produces the Kusala Kamma? What produces the Kusala Dhamma? It is Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vinyana. Is that clear, everyone? Right? That is how 21 Kusala Dhamma would be the 21 Kusala Chittas and its corresponding 38 Chetasikas, right? 21 Kusala Chittas and corresponding 38 Chetasikas. This, according to Khanda, is only 4 Khandas: Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana Khanda. Is that clear, everyone? Any questions? Any questions? No questions? Okay. Right. If you don't understand, I'm very happy to go over it again. Okay. Now let us come into, what are the 12 ayatanas? The 12 ayatanas is Rupayatana, Shabdayatana, Gandhayatana, Rasayatana, Pottabbayatana, Dhammayatana, Chakkayatana, Sotayatana, Ganayatana, Jivhayatana, Kayayatana, Manayatana. Right? Manayatana. Rupayatana is the sense field or the sense of sight. Saddha is sound. Gandha is smell. Rasa is taste. Pottabba is tangible objects or tangibility, right? No, actually it's tangibility, tangible objects, right? Dhammayatana, mental object. Chakkayatana, eye base. Sota, ear base. Ganayatana, nose base. Jivhayatana, tongue base. Kayayatana, body base. Manayatana, mind base, right? Manayatana, mind base. Now, these ayatanas, everyone, that you see, these ayatanas that you see, one might, these ayatanas that we see here, the first one, sight, would be the rupa or the chakku rupa, right? Chakku rupa. Saddayatana is a saddha rupa, right? Gandhayatana is the gandha rupa. Rasayatana is a rasa rupa. Pottabbayatana is a pottabba rupa. Dhammayatana is all phenomena. Now, these are rupas, right? These are rupas. Dhammayatana, now one might imagine, are these, because we are talking about sight, sound, smell, taste, tangible objects. What Dhammayatana, please do not confuse it with Dhamma Rammana. Dhammayatana and Dhamma Rammana are two different things, right? Are two different things. Dhammayatana would be the 89 chittas, right? 89 chittas. The Chakkayatana, eye base, is the...
Bhante, Dhammayatana would be Chaitasika, isn't it?
No, Manayatana is the Chaitasika.
No.
I thought Manayatana is the 89 chitta.
Yeah, it's Manayatana, the 89 chittas.
Dhammayatana.
Dhammayatana is Chaitasikas.
Not Dhamma.
Yeah, Dhammayatana is Chaitasika.
Dhamma is not only Chaitasika, it's so.
Very sorry.
Yes.
It is Manayatana comes to, okay, so this is Manayatana. Sorry, Manayatana should be here. And this is Dhammayatana. Dhammayatana. Sorry, yes. Dhammayatana.
Yeah.
Right. So Manayatana is the 89 chittas, right?
Yeah.
Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jivha, Kaya, these are the pasada rupas. Here, right? Pasada rupas. These are all pasada rupas, which brings in those or allows the doorway of how those senses come. Sorry. Now, Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabba are Bahira Dhammas. Bahira Dhammas, right? Chakkayatana, Sotayatana, Ganayatana, Jivhayatana, Kayayatana, these are Ajjatika Dhammas. These are Ajjatika Dhammas, internal, right? Internal. The external and internal. Dhammayatana, the mind base, comprises of all other dhammas which are not included above, which become the 52 Chaitasikas, the 16 Sukamarupas, and Nibbana. And Nibbana, right? And Nibbana. These ayatanas when we come into the 12 Dhatu, it is another way of form which includes the ayatanas there, right? But it is another way that we look at those elements now, which we call elements, right? Now, which we call those elements there. Now,
Bhante,
yes.
Bhante, when is it possible to consider this one as much more detailed? The from ayat to dhatu is classification in more detailed form.
Give me one moment, Dhammasiri.
Uh-huh.
Please ask me that after I finish this part.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Which is when we come into the 80 dhatus. Now, 12 ayatana, we have sight, sound, smells, right? The ajjata and the bahira. The 12 ayatanas, the 6 cognitive objects, right? The objects of that cognitive process. And then we have the bases where those objects are taken, right? Where those objects are taken. In the 18 dhatus, we have 6 cognitive objects: sight, sound, smell, taste, tactile, sensations, all of that, right? The 6 bases of faculties, which is the eye base, ear base, nose base, tongue base, body base, the mind base, right? And to it, we also have the primary consciousness through which that phassa arises, allowing the formation of sankharas that keeps the being flowing. Do you understand? Is that clear? Now, again, coming back to what I mentioned earlier, phassa arises when 3 conditions are present. What are the 3 conditions? Let us say, chakku vinyana, the chakku base, the prasada rupa, right? And then the object, right? The chakku vinyana, the chakku, the aramana, the rupa aramana, right? And then the base. When this is present, through phassa, now phassa can take place because ajjatika, bahidda, and then what fuels this process? Vinyana, chakku vinyana is present, so all 3 present, phassa. Phassa fuels the process of the entire paticca. Is that clear, everyone? So in the dhatu, we have 6 cognitive objects, which is sight, sound, smell, taste, tactile. The 6 bases: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, right? And now the 6 primary consciousnesses which fuels that respective process, which is eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness when it comes to mind object. Is that clear, everyone? Right? So in the ayatanas, we look at the ajjatika and the bahidda. The dhatus, we don't just stop at ajjatika and bahidda, we look at also what fuels this process, right? What fuels this process? The consciousness, right? The consciousness. Altogether, 6 into 3, 18. 6 into 3, 18. Is that clear, everyone? Now, let us go.
Can you please move it up a bit, please, your
Yes,
chart?
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Now we are coming into dhatu, right? Now we are coming into dhatu. Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jivha, Kaya. Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Potappa. Dhatu, Dhatu is at the end. The Vinyana, Chakku Vinyana Dhatu, Sota Vinyana Dhatu, Ghana Vinyana Dhatu, Jivha Vinyana Dhatu, Kaya Vinyana Dhatu, Mano Vinyana Dhatu, Dhamma Dhatu, Mano Dhatu, Dhamma Dhatu, Mano Vinyana Dhatu. Right? Mano Vinyana Dhatu. Let's go from the top. Chakku Dhatu is the Pasada Rupa, the Chakku Rupa. Sota Dhatu is a Sota Rupa. Gana Dhatu is a Gana Rupa. Jivha Dhatu is a Jivha Rupa. Kaya Dhatu is a Kaya Rupa. When it comes to Rupa, Chakku. Sorry, Chakku Rupa went bad. The Chakku. What would be the Pali for this? Rupa Dhatu. Chakku.
Bhante, isn't
It's
it
a color.
Rupa?
It's in Sinhala, it's called
It is color.
color, yeah.
But what is the Dhamma?
Rupa.
Rupa.
Yeah. That's what I've seen.
Okay. Right. Rupa Dhatu, Rupa. This is corresponding to Chakku. Okay. Saddha Dhatu is Saddha Rupa. Gandha Dhatu is Gandha Rupa. Rasa Dhatu, Rasa Rupa. Pottabba Dhatu, Pottabba Rupa. Chakku Vinyana Dhatu would be Ahetuka, Kusala, Akusala. Remember everyone? Ahetuka, Kusala, Akusala. So then that would be 2I consciousness there. Correct? Correct, everyone? Is anyone confused? 2I consciousness, Ahetuka, I consciousness or the I prasada is fueled or can be fueled by Kusala Vipaka and Akusala Vipaka in the Ahetukas. Right? So we have Chakku Vinyana Dhatu comprises of 2 I consciousnesses. Is that clear? Right? Is that clear? 2 I consciousness. Sota Vinyana Dhatu is 2 ear consciousnesses. Gana Vinyana Dhatu, 2 nose consciousnesses. Jivha Dhatu, Vinyana Dhatu is 2 tongue consciousnesses. Tongue conscious, taste consciousnesses. Smell. Sound. Sorry. Right? Sound. Taste. Kaya Vinyana Dhatu is 2 body consciousnesses. Mano Dhatu here is 1 Panchadvara Vajana and 2 Sampatichana. 1 Panchadvara Vajana and 2 Sampatichana. Dhamma Dhatu would then be, right, the 52 Chetasikas, the Sukhuma Rupas, all other Rupas we find here. Right? The Sukhama Rupas and Nibbana. Mano Vinyana Dhatu, mind consciousness element would be all Chittas which are not the Dvipancha Vinyanas and not Dhamma Dhatu. So all Chittas, so we don't have Chittas in Dhamma Dhatu, no? Right? There are no Chittas in Dhamma Dhatu. So all Chittas that are not excluding Panchadvara Vajana and Sampatichana and the Dvipancha Vinyana Chittas, which is Chakku Vinyana, Sota Vinyana, Gana Vinyana, Jibha Vinyana, Kaya Vinyana, right? All come under Mano Vinyana Dhatu. Is that clear? So, all Chittas, Mano Vinyana Dhatu refers to all Chittas that produce karma, or more specifically, all chittas that perform the jamana processes also there, right? So akusala chittas, right? Sobana chittas, right? Jnana chittas, all come under here the mano vinyana dhatu. Is that clear? Mano vinyana dhatu. Now, what is the difference between Mano Dhatu and Mano Vinyana Dhatu? What do you think the difference is? Mano Dhatu and Mano Vinyana Dhatu.
Can I try?
Yes.
In Mano Dhatu, the object is not taken deep. It's a very superficial. So the Mano Dhatu is actually the in thought process, the step before the Vijnana and immediately after the Vijnana, like Panchadvarajana and Sampatijana. That's in the middle, you have Chakku, Osoto, Gana, Vijnana. The reason is Araman is not taken so deep into the consciousness, but in the following, some particular Santirana, Bottapana, then Aranambana is taken more deep into the mind.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to have a go? Mano Dhatu. Tamari, we can barely hear you.
Sorry. I'm not that well. I'm trying.
Okay.
My voice going. So when you say all chittas under Mano Vinyana Dhatu, that it's already formed the Kamma Chitta. So it is a full Chitta process.
Okay.
Process. And so it would have the Aramana, it would have the Kamma, it would have basically the whole of the Chitta process happening, whereas Panchadvara Vajana, it'll turn towards the object,
yeah,
and just take it in.
And Sampatichana?
Sampatichana is the one that comes after the but it hasn't, like Bapa said, it hasn't been really, the object hasn't been taken fully or understood fully.
Yes, yes, yes. So when it comes to, thank you, Chamari, thank you, Dhammasangani, when it comes to Mano Dhatu and Mano Vinyana Dhatu, Mano Dhatu, or the Dhammas founded within Mano Dhatu, which is the 76 remaining chittas, we find that Mano Vinyana Dhatu has a more potent result upon the Vijnana as opposed to the Mano Dhatu. The Mano Dhatu plays a supporting role for the process of cognition, which is the Dvipancha Vijnana, which turns the mind towards the respective sensory door or gateway, right? And the Sampatichana, which performs a function of completing the process of sensory cognition. Mano Dhatu performs a process of support for the cognition of the Dvipancha Vinyanas. Whereas when we come into Mano Vinyana Dhatu performs a Kamma role for the Nama Rupa complex. What does that mean? A Kamma role. Here, the word Kamma is used to signify the Javana process. Kamma has strength in two ways. Kamma, of course, we might look at Kamma Vipaka, but Kamma is also the energy that goes into fueling the being and the mind, right? Let us say, for example, a being who lives a life of akusala decides to turn this, realizing the consequences or the gravity of the akusala, decides to turn upon a new leaf of conduct, right? In deciding to do so, the person applies himself in a certain manner, which brings about positive change bodily and mentally. That is done through javanas, that is done through karmas. Do you understand? Is that clear, everyone? By karmas, what we refer to is the conscious energy which goes into now fueling a certain process. The same way it can be taken, I'm going to give an opposite example, which is a person who lives a life of good now starts, due to, let us say, bad friends, bad associations, now starts living or going towards a life of misconduct. That too is done through karmas. The potency of Mano Vinyana Dhatu is far more stronger in comparison to Mano Dhatu, which only performs a supporting role in cognition. Is that clear, everyone?
Yeah.
Is that clear? Right? Any questions?
Bhante, I have a question. When you say, now what you say in, I'll say that one in Pali, Chakkuncha Paticca Rupecha Uppajjati Chakku Vinyana Tinnang Sangati Passo.
Yeah.
Right? That's how Sutra explained that one. So the question is, when it comes to Panchadvarajana Chitta, but it's already, it has taken some indication of the object.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the passa is not happened there in the Panchadvarajana, right?
Yeah.
Even though Panchadvarajana knows that there's an object I'm going to take in a bit, right? So the actual passa taking place after, if it is Chakku Vinyana, it's after Chakku Vinyana, right? And the question is, how do you explain passa in relation to Panchadvarajana Chitta?
Very nice. I mean, amazing question, I'm sorry. Now, if we would take this, we are standing outside, right? We are standing outside and we feel the wind, right? We feel the wind. The strength of the wind is felt through continuous taking of contact as object, series of phassa arising tells us how strong or light the wind is, right? Not one contact, but a series of it. When it comes to phassa, with regards to the Panchadvara Vajana, the Panchadvara Vajana only picks up one thing. It does not pick up the wind. It picks up the potential of prominent object.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Potential of prominent object. Now, for example, if we would take the eye base again, what are the conditions necessary for the eye base or the chakku vinya, or rather for chakku to take place or sight to happen, let us say, right? That would be light, chakku pasada, chakku vinyana, and mansikara. These four must be present. But these four being present, we must realize these four are causes for the object to now be apprehended. Right?
Yeah.
These four doesn't pull the mind. No.
Okay.
These four have no inclination of the mind. These four are causes. When these causes are present together, right? If light is not there, it is dark, right? Andhakarya is not an arambana. Darkness is not an arambana, right? In darkness, there is no chakku arambana. When these four are present with light, when these four are present, now the Panchadvara Bhajana has an inclination of potential. That's the only thing it has. An inclination of potential. That inclination of potential is given by four causes. Four causes. Chakku Vinyana, Mansikara, Aloka, and Sadharupa.
Yeah.
Right? When these four are present, then the Panchadvara Vachana can become the potential of it. Right? That's the only thing that Panchadvara Vachana senses. Hence, it is a ahetuka chitta. Hence, it is an ahetuka chitta. And ahetuka chittas are by nature, regardless of what it is, ahetuka chittas are by nature weak. Right? Including the Hasitupada chitta, which is again a smile producing for an arahant, but the Hasitupada chitta again is weak. Why? Because there is no kammic potency there. Right? There is no kammic potency. It doesn't produce a kamma. It doesn't produce anything. Right? Rather than a smile which does not result in a kamma. Is that clear, everyone? Right? Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yeah,
Because
because
what are the four things again?
Mansikara, Chakupasada, Aloka, Vinyana. Respectively, Vinyana. The four.
Thank you, Bhante.
Right? The four. Now, the other thing is, now when we talk about Dhamma Dhatu, what is the difference between Dhamma Rammana and Dhamma Dhatu? Now, this becomes important when we do Dhammanupassana. Dhamma Rammana and Dhamma Dhatu. Dhamma Dhatu only has Paramatta Dhamma. Actually, all 18 dhatus only speak on the Paramatta Dhammas. Dhamma Rammana includes concepts and conventional terms, prajnapti. In 18 dhatus, there is no prajnapti. Because prajnapti is not paramattha dhamma. Is that clear, everyone? Right? Dhamma Rammana includes prajnapti. That is why Dhamma Rammana is not Dhamma Dhatu. And Dhamma Dhatu specifically only has or speaks on Paramattha Dhammas. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Right? What does that mean? Hemamali, are you lost? Are you okay?
Yes.
Are you okay?
Yes, Bhante, I'm thinking.
Are you thinking? What are you thinking
Yes.
about?
No, Bhante, that Dhamma Rammana is more powerful than the Dhamma, that one, no, the Bhante.
Hurry. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. The Dhamma Rammana, one might say, Dhamma Rammana is more powerful. But what does power mean in this case? Dhamma Rammana, if we might change the term power, Dhamma Rammana is more karmically potent because it's prajnapti. Prajnapti is clung to by Atma. The more Atma Sanya, the more belief we have upon prajnapti. Hence, Dhamma Rammana can be karmically potent. Do you understand? Does that make sense? But that is a different type of conversation to what the conversation is currently with regards to Paramattha Dhamma. Do you understand? The thing is, Dhamma Rammana, in Dhamma Rammana, let us say, an hindrance, Hemamali,
Yeah.
Kama Chanda, right?
Yes.
Kama Chanda, the observation of Kama Chanda falls under Dhammanupassana, right? The observation or that Kama Chanda can be deduced as a Dhamma Rammana, can also be seen as a Dhamma Dhatu. How is it different? The person who deduces Kama Chanda as Dhamma Rammana sees the story behind the Kama Chanda. Right? Now let us say, I love ice cream. Right? Something like, do you get what I mean? Now, Kama Chanda arises, Kama Chanda, the craving for sensual pleasure, arises to the taste, to the smell, to the sight. There are pleasant looking ice creams also, no, very nice looking ice creams. Huh? Now that can be a Dhamma Rammana there. Prajnapti. Right? Now what is that? If we might take that Kama Chanda as a Dhamma Dhatu, what does that mean now? Now we are looking at the arising and the passing with regards to Anicca, Dukkha, Anatma, with regards to there is smell, the ice cream smells of something. Then there is the Ghana Vinyana, right? That's Ghana Vinyana. Then there is the base as well, right? And then there is Pottabha as well, the sensation, the feeling, the taste as well, the cold that you might feel, right? The taste that you might feel. Do you understand, Himali? The difference in that case, Dhamma Rammana and Dhamma Dhatu. Dhamma Rammana, because of the prajnapti being there, this is an Italian ice cream, so it should be good, right? This is made of this specific type of milk, so it must be good. Do you get what I mean? But Dhamma Dhatu, none of that matters in the case of Dhamma Dhatu. Mukada, why? Hearing is hearing, seeing is seeing, smelling is smelling, tasting is tasting. Do you understand? That prajnapti is not there. That prajnapti is not there. Does that make sense, Hemamali?
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah.
Bhante, can I ask you a question, Bhante?
Yes.
Now, Dhamma Dhatu, when
Yeah.
we think about Anitya, then Dhamma Dhatu, and when we think about the Prajna, is it Dhamma Rammana?
Dhamma Dhatu, please repeat.
Now, if we think about Anitya, now say we see a Vedana, it comes and it goes. Then is it comes under Dhatu, and if we, with Prajna, if we just look, then is it Dhamma?
Hari. That right. Here, all right. Api Prajnavindan Balam. Let us look at it with Prajna. Prajna can be linked to Prajnapti. Prajna can be linked to Paramatta. Right? Meaning, Hemamali, we can look at a good deed. Right? We can look at a good deed and appreciate the good deed that is being done and give value and credibility to the act which is being performed owing to our prajna. Right? Example, the Buddha, or as a bodhisattva, the Buddha, at the cost of his life, performed the Dasaparamis. Right? To the person who does not understand that act, I'm sure even back in the day, during the time of the Bodhisattva, there were people who looked upon the Bodhisattva and thought to themselves, my gosh, what are they doing? What is he doing? Right. You know? But then, prajna can also be applied, or prajna can exist at a level where the prajna does not need that storyline, but sees things as they truly are in their most raw form of Paramatta existence. Raw form of Paramatta existence. For example, during a moment of keen samadhi, when an object arises, we observe without attachment and see arising, passing. There is no story, there is no craving or clinging, but we simply observe the arise. That is also prajna. Does that make sense, Hemaman? That is also prajna. So prajna, depending on what level or what scope it is at, there can be prajna with prajnapti, there can be prajna with paramatta dhamma as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions? Any further questions? Anyone? All right. So now, to add on to Hemamali's question and to build on what the dhatus are, dhatus, because the dhatus emphasize upon paramatta dhammas, a dhatu being an element, it bears its own characteristic. It bears its own characteristic, hence meaning it cannot be further broken or split into anything. It is its most raw form of existence as a paramatta dhamma. What are the paramatta dhammas? Chitta, Chetasika, Rupa, Nibbana. Hence, it cannot be split into any more factors rather than that. These paramatta dhammas, right? These qualities that we might see as abstract qualities of nature within and around are void of substance. They are void of self. They are void of a soul, a person, a I, a life. Except for Nibbana, all other Paramatha Dhammas are void of a sense of substance. What does this mean? Wouldn't you like to ask that question? I mean, we are saying Kusala Dhamma, but what is a Kusala Dhamma? Kusala Dhamma means something to us because why? Because the Prajnapti. What is the Prajnapti? If we perform a Kusala, we will have a Kusala Vipaka. What are Kusala Vipakas? Ayu, Vanna, Sukha, Bala, Prajna can be a Kusala Vipaka. If we take a more sort of mundane example, living a beautiful life, having beautiful children, physical and mentally beautiful children, having good friends, Kalyan Mitras, all of these things. So then what is it that relates or speaks, or the Dhamma speaks of lacking of substance? In this multi-dimensional existence of causes and effects, Chitta, Chetasika, Rupa. Let's put the Rupa aside. Chittas and Chetasikas, causes and effects, conditions that are present. If we would take or separate Chetasika, which we don't do, we cannot separate Chitta and Chetasika, right? Chitta cannot arise without Chetasika. Chetasika will not arise without Chitta, right? Now, the 28 or the 21 chittas associated with Kusala Dhamma has 38 supportive Chetasikas that arises with it, isn't it? Right? Without those 38 Chetasikas, the 21 chittas, one of those Kusala chittas, regardless, any one of those Kusala chittas will not have the depth of condition allowing it to be a Kusala Dhamma. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense? Let me go deeper. Damsi, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bhante, if I define Dhātu this way, it's the central core of inanimate driving force that support existence of all the peripheral dharmas and pancha upadana skandhas.
All the peripheral dhammas and pancha
upadana
upadana
skandhas.
Correct.
Because this I extracted from Visuddhimagga.
Yeah.
There's a chapter in the Visuddhimagga.
Yeah.
It's explained much more detail.
Yeah.
The Dhātu and Ayatana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's I had this problem. I have been asking you quite a number of times to understand Dhātu, especially. Now I have a very sort of broad understanding of Dhātu. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So it's possible that I can explain that way. Because in the Visuddhimagga, it says Dhātu that help to Viddati and Direta. That means in Sinhala, Upadavai and Dharanava. So all the peripheral dhammas are actually instigated or supported by all these 18 dhatus.
If we would even look at Dhamsri, if we would look at the dhatus, the Mahadhatus.
Yeah.
The great elements, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu themselves is explained as properties.
Yeah.
Right? Properties, base properties.
Yeah.
These base properties forms the foundation for all other materiality to exist.
Yeah.
Right. All other materiality to exist.
Yeah.
In the same manner, This actually, the Dhātu, so the process of Dhātus is a very, very interesting part in Vipassana, because we begin to see, when we begin to see the Dhātus, that is where Nirodha now begins as an experience. Right?
Yes.
Not the Nirodha process, but the process leading towards Nirodha, because all we see at this point in time is causes and effect, causes and effect, causes and ඊට වඩා දෙයක් මෙතන නැහැ.
Yeah.
Right? ශබ්දයක් ඇහෙනවා, we hear a sound. When we hear a sound, the clinging upon the sound brings up the prajñapti. But when the mind is so stable and dedicated towards paramatta dhamma and the dhamma path, vipassana, anicca, dukkha, anatma, we do not go into the prajñapti. We stand, we are in this moment of present, and all we see is a rising of so many causes and conditions, leading, if we let it go, leading into other conditions and causes. It is like if the mind allows unwholesome to arise, the unwholesome pathway will arise within the mind. If we allow kusala, or if that is our conditioning, kusala mind, a kusala person, then the kusala stream will follow. But we realize these are only mechanisms, causes and conditions, but nothing more. But in all, as we look at Dhatu, what we are basically looking at is the base elements of Rupa and Nama that allows this life to be. Just like, for example, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo in the Rupa Khanda allows for the rest of the 24 Rupas to be. The Nama and Rupa Dhatus allows existence of is the foundation pillar on which existence is built. The moment the meditator, the Vipassana practitioner starts seeing Dhatu as they exist in the present moment, the rest disappears. Atma Sanya is out the door, because Atma Sanya also we see the conditions of it rooted in Avidya, Sankhara, Vinyan, Avidya and Tanha, rooted in Avidya and Tanha, building on the Atma Sanya. We clearly see it in the Vipassana practice. The moment, but we are only able to see when we are able to deduce between Atma and present moment experience. It is not the same. When we are able to break between Atma and present moment experience, yes, Atma arises in the present moment. Yes, Mama Dakinawa, Mata Pena, Mata Hainawa. Mam Bhavana Karanawa, Mata, my meditation is good. All of that is Atma Sanya. But when we start deducing between the story of the meditation and the meditation being good, good to whom? Good. As long as there is an Atma, it will be deduced as good, bad, neither good nor bad. Yeah, that is a position that Dhatu allows us to understand. Dhatu forms the base of existence. Is that clear, everyone? And when we find, now for example, it is like when sight is there, and when sight is prominent, right? When sight is prominent, now for example, let us say you go to, let us say, a musical show or somewhere that you feel very happy to be in. But you feel so happy to be there because you're seeing something so grand, so beautiful, so well put together. So you're so proud and happy to be there. Based upon what? Based upon what you're seeing. So what is your life happy about, or what is your life at that moment? Your life is what you're seeing. Your life is what you're seeing. Right? But if you're blind, and now you only have your ears, Your life is your ears, what you're hearing. But the moment you take away your life, that aspect, that word, that perception, this is my life. I am proud to be here. I'm proud to be hearing. My gosh, I'm so fortunate to be hearing this. When you take that element out of it, it's only hearing. That is what the knowledge of the Dhatu allows you to do. To understand that cradle of where existence happens. It is at these causes and conditions now being present. Does that make sense, everyone? Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Any questions?
Bhante, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Lakshman, of course.
Yeah. Pragnati, what exactly is Pragnati?
Pragnati is Pragnapti.
Pragnati.
Pragnapti is conventional truth.
Oh, right. Conventional truth. Right.
Yeah. Or it can be also sometimes truth. Sometimes they don't use the word truth. They use the word terms, conventional terms.
Conventional terms.
So, for example, man, woman is a pragnapti. A road is a pragnapti. A chair is a pragnapti. Right?
Right. Is Pragnati, is it Pragnati? Is it?
Pragnapti. I'll spell it out on the chat, yeah?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That's the Pali. Pragnapti is Sinhala.
Oh, right.
Shriyani, yes?
Bhante, the difference between Pragnapti and Prajna, then?
Pragnapti and Pragnapti hira Khanda. The moon. The moon and it's two. Pragnapti. Prajnapti is there are two types of Prajnapti. Arthapanyati, and Namapanyati. Right? These Prajnaptis or conventional terms relates to the way that we would understand or know something. Right? It's not necessarily true. It might be something which is accepted. It might be something that is not accepted. Maybe only you think about it this way. Do you understand? Right? Prajna is, of course, wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah.
Right? Now, for example, now let us say being racist. Right? Now, generally we know being racist is incorrect, that it is wrong, right? But there might be societies that says, oh, but it is true, but it is all right, but it is what happens, right? The thing is, a pragnapti in terms of any terms, it doesn't necessarily need to be true or false. It is the way that something is known. For example, if a piece of wood has 4 legs on it, it would be known as a stool or a table.
Yeah.
But there are stools or tables or chairs that looks like a stool or table too, without a back. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Right? So if that sort of chair came with a table, you surely know this is the chair. But it doesn't have a back. It only has wood and 4 legs.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? A pragnapti can always be challenged, whereas a paramattha cannot be challenged. There is nothing, you cannot break patavi into a finer material. You cannot break Chakku Vijnana into a finer mental attribute. Do you understand? Right? But if you would take the concept of a woman, the woman can be broken into many parts. A white woman, a woman of color, an Asian woman, a Chinese woman, a tall woman, a short woman. Dude, does that make sense, Shami?
Yeah.
Right? But the Chakku Vijnana, the eye consciousness, is not further divisible in any way. Yeah. All right.
So actually the Vijnana that is what you are aiming at.
That is, no, the Vijnana is whether you're aiming or not, it's there. Right?
Yeah.
It is a Vijnana. When we're talking about a Vijnana with regards to, for example, the Dhātu, what we are referring to is ultimate reality. So that is why we said Dhatus, the 18 Dhatus only speak on ultimate reality. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Mala?
Bhante, I read in a book about this Prajnapti, and it explains it's like concepts, like conventional things.
Yeah.
And it says, we say the sun rises, the sun goes down, but the sun doesn't rise, sun doesn't go down. But conventionally, we say sun rises and sun goes down. So it's a concept or a Prajnapti, that's what it says.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, it's a concept. Okay.
It's a concept. It's a concept.
Yeah, so conceptual reality in other words. Okay.
Yeah, conventional reality. So,
Okay.
so 18 Dhatus does not have any conventional reality. It is only Paramata Dhatu.
So this Dhatu Bhante you're talking about is, do you go into the Kalapas?
No.
Not that far. Sorry.
It's not that it would be wrong to say not that far. Right. The thing is, a Kalapa is a collection of rupas.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Right? But Dhatu refers to all ultimate reality, Chitta Chetasika Rupa. Right? So this is how we would create all conventions. But when we are looking at Dhatu, we are looking at that bedrock of where those conventions or how those or from where those conventions were created from. And that is the Dhatu. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Okay. Now, okay, Satcha, we cannot go through it today. There's a bit of explanation for Satcha. So we will go into Satcha next week. So I will be doing Satcha from the retreat. I will be doing Satcha from the retreat, and we will go into Satcha next week. Okay, and I will send this on the WhatsApp group, and I will also put it on the website for all of you. Okay, everyone. Any questions? Any questions before we wrap up?
Bhante, I want to add something beautiful I read about Sampa Yoga, and it describes Sampa Yoga as kavara ayurin ho wen kala nohaki paridi misra veema. I thought that was beautiful said there about Chitta and Chaitanya. The explanation of Sampa Yoga.
Sampa Yoga, Chitta and Chaitanya. Yes, yes, we will go into that part. Thank you for sharing, Mala. We'll go into that more next week with Satcha. All right, everyone. Okay. So any more questions or anything to say? All right. Take care, everyone. Teruvan Sarnai.
Teruvan Saranai Bhante.
Teruvan
Thank you.
Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai Bhante.
Saranai Bhante.
Bye.